Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Yarado Krikorian with the news in English. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, during a press conference held in Brussels, following a conference between the Russian Council and NATO members, expressed hope that NATO commit itself to international law, taking into consideration the dangerous situation in Syria. Lavrov pointed out that Russia and NATO signed a statement regarding Syria's chemical weapons, in addition to discussing the Iranian nuclear file, which will be finally closed and put under international supervision. For his part, NATO Secretary General Rasmussen stressed that the only solution in Syria is a political one based upon dialogue and Geneva I principles of June 2012, adding that the two sides discussed the preparations underway for holding Geneva II conference. The Russian Foreign Ministry has declared that Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed during his meeting last night with the Saudi intelligence chief Bandar bin Sultan the prospect of holding the Geneva II International Conference on Syria and the Iranian nuclear program. The Russian Foreign Ministry said both sides discussed the developments of the situation in the Near and Middle East, including the crisis in Syria, the Geneva II Conference and the Iranian nuclear program, emphasizing the need to solve critical regional issues on the basis of respecting the UN Charter and international law principles. The Foreign Ministry said reference was made to the prospects of this Russian-Saudi relations and the need to continue bilateral political dialogue on various levels. Russian presidency spokesman Dmitry Peskov had earlier said that President Vladimir Putin yesterday met bin Sultan and discussed with him the situation in Syria in light of the preparations made for the Convention of Geneva II. Russian Foreign Ministry's envoy in the field of human rights, Konstantin Dolgov, called for the release of the nuns who were kidnapped 2 days ago by an armed terrorist group in the monastery of Martaqla in Ma'lula of Damascus countryside. Dolgov emphasized the need to clearly condemn the abduction of the nuns. Dolgov's call came after Russian Foreign Ministry called to halt the terrorist attacks on the places of worship and on men of religion in Syria. For its part, the Patriarchate of Moscow and the rest of Russia condemned the abduction of the nuns from the monastery of Martaqla, describing it as a barbaric crime. The Pope of the Vatican has addressed an appeal concerning the nuns who had been kidnapped by a terrorist group from Martaqla Monastery in the village of Ma'lula in Damascus suburbs, and for all the people who have been kidnapped in Syria. During the public gathering at St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis said, "We are praying for the sisters and all the people who have been kidnapped because of the conflict. Let's continue the prayers and the work for peace." Syria's permanent representative to the UN, Dr. Bashar Al-Jaafari, has affirmed that all the Saudis who came to fight in Syria have done so with the knowledge of the Saudi intelligence and authorities. In a press conference at the UN headquarters, Al-Jaafari made it clear that a large number of them had had death sentences or long-term imprisonment and were set free in return for coming to fight in Syria. Al-Jaafari added that the majority of them belonged to Al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations, and that the Saudi authorities now found a way to get rid of them and send them to Syria on the basis of undeclared agreements. Welcome back. 17 people have been killed and 30 others injured following a terrorist attack with missile shells at Al-Furqan and the Meridian residential neighborhoods in the city of Aleppo. The Syrian Arab Army eliminated a terrorist group, killing all its members in a nabak of Damascus countryside, pounding all their hideouts and gatherings in the areas of Al-Arqub, Al-Saqi and Al-Zraybat farms, and also in Al-Muftah neighborhood, northeast of the town. Among the terrorists killed were Muhammad Nasif and Muhannad Ashur. In Harasta, Syrian Arab Army clashed with a terrorist group at the outskirts of Al-Thanawiyah, killing most of the terrorists and destroying their weapons and ammunition. Among the terrorists killed was Isam Swaydan. Units of the Syrian Arab Army eliminated the members of an armed terrorist group by an ambush during an infiltration attempt into Tishreen power station in Damascus suburbs. In Homs, a military source said that Syrian Arab Army destroyed a 60-meter tunnel that stretched between Nizar Qabbani outskirt and Al-Qarabis neighborhood. The terrorist armed groups were preparing to use the tunnel in transporting their weapons. In the eastern countryside of Homs, the villages of Maksar al-Ahsan, Abu al-Alaya and Al-Mas'udiyah witnessed repeated infiltration attempts by the terrorists who tried to enter from the mountains and the surrounding desert, but the Syrian Arab Army was always there to foil their attempts. In the village of Maksar al-Ahsan, a unit of the Syrian Arab Army is positioned with the task of monitoring the terrorist movements and pounding their gatherings. Also, other Syrian Arab Army units repeatedly repel attempts by the terrorists to infiltrate from Al-Raqqa, Aleppo countryside and Hama countryside through the hills of Al-Mas'udiyah towards the eastern countryside of Homs. The Hama Ma'arret and Nu'man road is a strategic axis the terrorists have often tried hard to take control of but failed. The road has witnessed violent battles the Syrian Arab Army has waged to clear Syria of terrorism. Many Jabhat al-Nusra members have been eliminated on that road. However, some terrorist groups are still to be found in the western sector of the town of Morak as ongoing battles continue in the area. Meanwhile, normal movement of citizens is observed in the eastern district. On the other hand, traffic and civilians movement has been active in Khan Sheikhoun after being cleared of terrorists. In Idlib, the authorities seized a store in a basement at Al-Ra'id Mall in which large quantities of various kinds of medicine were hidden and intended to be delivered to the terrorists. The mall owners were covering up by selling accessories for women. According to information that the armed terrorist groups were receiving large quantities of medicine in Idlib countryside, the authorities raided the warehouse of Al-Ra'id in the area, and after inspecting it, 3 large stores were discovered where different requirements of field hospitals were hidden, including cotton, gauze and injections. The contents of the warehouse were seized and all the workers were arrested. Hezbollah party announced that one of its leaders, Hassan Hillo al-Laqis, was assassinated last night in front of his house in St. Therese area in Al-Hadath in Beirut while coming back from his work. A statement issued by Hezbollah media office held Israel directly responsible for the assassination, as the Israeli Mossad had tried unsuccessfully to assassinate him before. The statement pointed out that the Israeli enemy must be held accountable for the crime, adding that martyr al-Laqis has spent his youth and rest of his life serving in the resistance, as he offered one of his sons a martyr during the Israeli war against Lebanon in 2006. In the latest developments in Tripoli, the Lebanese army was deployed in the main streets, side roads and the intersections of the city. The army also carried out several raids. In the morning, life returned to normal in Tripoli as several shops and businesses were open, while schools and universities resumed their work in most of the areas. Finally, and back to our local news, in Latakia, the St. Barbara feast has been celebrated in Latakia amidst prayers for peace to prevail in Syria.
All world churches in general and Eastern churches in particularly have agreed to honor the martyr Saint Barbara and to follow her guidance. Happy day for everybody in our dear country. God bless Syrian youth and save Syria. Happy year for you and for our dear country Syria. God protect our Syrian National Army. Saint Barbara's Day brought rain and hope. All Syrians are waiting for peace eagerly to come back to the Syrian land. We are an optimistic people. We like joy in all circumstances. This helps Syria to be strong. Congratulations for all Syrians. I like to say I wish the coming days to be better. Happy year for everybody in Syria. God bless Syria. Happy year for everybody in our dear country Syria. Joy should be existed and we should challenge all difficulties because without joy and happiness we cannot go on. In spite of the huge sadness that prevails in Syria, Syrian people are trying to snatch some joy and happiness. Saint Barbara's Day is a chance to remember a peaceful life that has been the title of Syria. For the English news, the Syrian channel, Ranim al-Basha.
With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to the latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short break.